Hi guys, so I was brought these door cards the other day by a customer, and he asked me if I could cover these door cards in black leather. Now, my instant reaction was just to laugh at him really. If you look at the state of the cards, they should be flat, and as you can see, that isn't flat at all. The board is in pretty shocking condition. It's had quite a lot of water damage, and this one's the better one. This one here, if you look at that one, that's like an aeroplane wing. And obviously I said no, I couldn't recover these cards. They're beyond the point of recovering. There's no way I can get them to be straight. It's from an old car, I'm not sure what car it is, and obviously they've got a bit damp and become misshapen. They've even got mould on the back of them. Yeah, so I said no, I wouldn't try and cover these cards. There's absolutely no point. But what I could do for him was to make him a brand new set. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make a brand new set of cards for this car. I don't know what car it is. It doesn't actually really matter to me what car it is. Yeah, I'm going to make a new set of these. Now, he did bring me 2 spare sets, and I've stripped one down already, so I have the foam that goes on the card here. There's a top rail here that attaches to the top of the card. There is another rail that actually hooks onto the top of the door. It's got a little lip here that hooks onto the top of the door. And this is the card itself. Now this card has got a chunk at the corner here, and it's the same as the other ones. It's quite misshapen. Obviously I've stripped this one down here. I'll put these to one side, I don't need these yet. I will need to take some of the bits off. So as you can see from this card, it's been heat welded, this part here. So it's been put in a press, and the vinyl, because this is only vinyl on this card, it's not leather, has been formed around the foam and then obviously heat sealed or heat welded to the card itself to create this kind of effect. Now, I don't have the technology to do that. I'm not going to make a mould for this card, and with leather anyway, that technique wouldn't work. So I have to make this in a completely different way. So I will make this part here, the centre, as an insert panel that I will attach to the main card. Now that will probably make the card a little bit thicker, so I will have to make the hole here in the insert panel big enough for the winder to fit into, because if I don't, then when the winder goes in, it'll be too tight, even if you can get it in. Yeah, first job is to cut out a new card. Now I have one drawn out already, so I've used this card as a template and drawn this one out here that I've got on the bench. So I'm using plywood for these rather than using hardboard, which once it gets wet starts to deform. This is WBP, so it's water and boil proof. So if it gets wet, it won't become misshapen and it won't delaminate. So everything is now drawn out on this card. I can cut this out, but I also need to cut out the centre panel that I'm going to put in here. So I've now got the centre panel drawn out onto this board here. I'm going to cut this out, cut the other piece out. I need to attach this metal piece to the top of the main door card piece. And is that it? Yeah, I'll cut it all out properly, so I'll cut out all the holes as well on the main door card. I'll attach this piece. Now this was attached with these little metal prongs here, so the little prongs, I'm not sure how well you can see that. The little metal prongs here that are bent out. So I will straighten them as well, but I'm not just going to rely on those because I don't think these will hold now. I will use a bit of glue on this as well, and probably some rivets as well, just to make sure it's attached to the door card properly and it won't come off, because the last thing I want to do is to cover everything and then find out that this is loose. So yeah, so once I've cut the two boards out, drill all the holes, I will attach this piece, and then I will cover the whole thing with one big piece of leather, and then I'll use this board with a clamp, and I'll squeeze the leather around that and kind of pre-form the leather. Once I've wet it anyway, I'm going to wet it. So when you wet leather and then you form it around something, it forms a memory. So the water will soften the leather, make it very supple, make it easier to form around a shape, and then once you actually hold it in that shape for long enough to let the leather dry, then that shape is formed into the leather, and it makes it easier for quite tricky areas that have got deep recesses in. If you try and do it with dry leather, it doesn't always work. You can't stretch the leather enough, but by wetting the leather, when I say wetting it, I mean getting it very wet, that'll make the leather very supple. So yeah, time to cut out the boards. That's the first piece cut out. So I'm now going to leave this overnight and take the clamps off in the morning, and hopefully it will be in the correct position, won't be glued to the bench, which who knows, we're going to find out tomorrow whether it's glued to the bench or not, and everything's correct. So yeah, so that now is just going to be left overnight and taken off in the morning. So I'll see you in the morning, guys. Time to go home. Brave this nice weather we're having at the minute. Lots of rain. So it's now the following morning and I can take these clamps off and see if this is held. Let's hope it's not glued itself to the bench. So I don't think I'm going to need any rivets on this. It seems like it's held quite well. Offer the foam up to it. No. And I'll get my insert piece. Check that as well. So I'm happy enough with all that now. So I now have two options. Once I've put the leather on here and I've preformed it using this panel here, I can see whether I'll be able to do it in one big piece and get away with not using this insert panel. If it forms really nicely, then I may be able to just do it in one big piece and we'll be good. But if I find that it doesn't form as well as I wanted to, then I will use this insert panel, cover that in leather and then glue this to here. But we'll see how we go. A little bit of a top tip for you. If you use spray adhesive, then when you get to like just a little bit in the bottom, it doesn't spray very well. But if you put it in some warm water, then you can actually use the last little bits in the tin. The water's going to be warm, not hot, so you'll be able to put your hand in it. So like a nice hot bath. So I'll leave that in there for a couple of minutes, let the glue warm up and the tin warm up, and I'll be able to use whatever's left in the bottom of the tin. So I'm now ready to glue the foam onto the board. I've already cut the piece of leather to go over this. So I glue this down. I'll then put the leather onto here. I'll mark the places that I need to wet the leather. So I'm going to wet the leather around here so it forms this shape, this area here, and this corner here. This corner is quite a tricky little area, so I'll wet that a lot. Once I've wet it all in the correct places, I'll put the leather on top. I'll flip the board over. I'll attach the leather, not permanently. I will just put a few tack staples in, and then I will put the board over the top here, the two little pieces that I've cut for these areas here, and then start to clamp it all down. I'm not going to clamp it to the bench because when I clamp it to the bench, I can't use the bench all day. So I've got this big board here behind me that I'll clamp it to the board, then I can move it out of the way and let the leather dry overnight. It should be fine by tomorrow. It's not too cold today, so it will dry enough. And then once it's dried and formed its shape, I'll remove all the clamps, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, if it works really, really well, I won't need to use this insert panel. I'll be able to just glue the leather down because it's formed its shape. It will permanently keep that shape then, and I'll be able to just glue the leather down, and we should have a nice one-piece cover. Now, if it doesn't form its shape correctly, then I will have to use the insert board that I've cut for here. So let's see how it goes. So I'm just going to glue the top half first because I've got to compress this foam in a little bit. I'll start on this end here, I'll glue probably to about here, and then I'll move over to this side and then push the foam in just to get it to compress. So I'm actually, when I'm gluing this down, I'm pulling this way a little bit, give it a little bit of a start like that, just so I know I'm compressing it correctly. What I will do though is I will use the board just to make sure that I'm happy. Oops. So I need to mark where I need to wet things, so I draw a line there. My pen has run out. Better. And I'll draw around this here. So that gives me all the areas that I need to wet. So I need to wet, I could strip around here, like that. Obviously this whole corner here, I need to wet. I'll wet this corner here, and this bit here. I'm putting quite a lot of water in here. I want it to soak into the leather, make the leather supple. As you can see, the leather is absorbing quite a lot of this water. It's already expanding a little bit. This part here is the especially tricky bit, so that's why I'm putting loads and loads on here. And so same with this here. I need it to be very supple in these two spots. Everywhere else is not too bad. This is probably another bit that has to be very supple because it's got quite a severe angle change here. And we should be fine with that now. So it's been about 10 minutes or so. So I'll just now attach the leather. I'm just using 4mm staples. I'm not putting a hell of a lot in, just enough to keep it on the board. A few more just here. So that should do. So you can see how the leather's gone all wavy where it's wet, which is exactly what I wanted. Place the insert panel in. First thing I will do, I will clamp this bit down here. I don't like the fact that it's touching the leather here, so I'm going to have to put a slightly bigger block under this here. So that's all now clamped, and I've just got to wait now for the leather to dry. Once it is, I'll remove all the clamps. Now this is the first time I've done this technique on something of this size. I've done it on smaller items, but nothing of this size. So we'll see how it goes. I can't see why it wouldn't work. It works on smaller pieces, so it should work on something of this size. And yeah, only time will tell. So now you've got to give it some time. So I'll move this out of the way. It's going to be tricky to get it off the bench. It's quite heavy now with all the clamps and this big board, so find a way of carrying it without stabbing myself. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh. Oh. So if you want to see if that worked, you'll have to tune into part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye.